Hello, everybody. Again, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Verba. I work at a company called Handshake here in San Francisco. And today I'm going to talk to you about how we do and why we do testing in production, and my own personal journey from kind of thinking about it as necessary evil, things that you have to do but you don't want to do, to thinking about it more of an indispensable, quite valuable tool. To start off, let's talk a little bit about Handshake. Most of you have probably never heard of it, and it's a small company, it's understandable. So Handshake is a career platform for students that helps connect students with employers and helps students find meaningful jobs and jumpstart their careers. At Handshake, we believe that talent is distributed equally, but opportunity is not. So we work very hard to bridge that gap and to help students find their dream jobs and make a career out of it. So my role at Handshake is quality assurance engineer, and besides making sure that we ship very good products that our customers love to use, I think that my responsibilities as a QA engineer is also supporting engineering team with everything and anything test-related, test infrastructure, test framework, and as well as keeping their productivity and happiness high. So whenever, with my background with being in QA for about 6 years, whenever I heard, oh, let's just test in production, this is pretty much the reaction I would get. No way, let's not do that. Why don't we want to do this? Well, first of all, I do not like customers to find any issues. I do not want to expose them to any potential, even small bugs. So yeah, let's not test in production. The second thing is, I personally create a lot of gibberish records. Like, I don't care when I test. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't make sense. And I wouldn't want anybody to see those records. Besides, it has a potential to mess up reporting and analytics. Then it's also very, very easy to delete records and modify records. So making this mistake is very costly. It's usually it's very expensive, and probably engineers will spend like a couple hours trying to dig out our recent database backup and try to restore it. So again, let's not do that in production. And the last one is data security. We're actually exposing some records to other people that shouldn't see that. So then I started realizing that maybe it's not actually that bad. Sometimes we have to make this sacrifice, and sometimes we have to test in production. So I thought, yeah, maybe it's okay, as long as we have automation testing. So before actually deploying, we have something that verifies that our stuff works. We also want to make sure that we have a very good system, early detection system and monitoring and alerting system. We actually want to find mistakes that we make before our customers do. We absolutely have to put it behind a feature toggle. There's absolutely no way around it. Even if there is no issues with our new feature, we do not want to surprise our customers. We do not want to throw the new feature on them, deal with it, whatever you want to do. We want to have that material ready for them. We want to expose them to it before they see it. In the recent times, the way that we've done it, it historically happened that most of our features were read-only. We would not create any new records. We would not modify any records. And we also made some trade-offs. We thought about it. We realized that, yes, it is possible to create those separate production-like environments and test it there, but for us, it's not realistic to do that. We move very fast. We are, we don't have that many engineers to spend time creating new environments. So basically, it's a very expensive process for us. We really don't want to do it. And Besides that, we are very careful about our data records, and we take security very seriously. We do constantly data privacy trainings. We have multiple checks in place in code. So this helps us safeguard against any issues. So in the past, where we did test in production, this would be a couple of examples. When we needed real-life traffic. So general performance testing, performance monitoring on a daily basis. We also needed our production data. Sometimes it's very hard to reproduce and replicate the same data that we have in production. So examples would be Elasticsearch 5 upgrade and job recommendation service. And lastly, we do a lot of A/B testing and experimentation at Handshake. We validate our product ideas. So I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about this, couple of these examples here. So Elasticsearch 5 upgrade was a pretty good example because, first of all, why we needed to do this. We rely heavily on search engine. Search-based features are pretty much our core. Whenever students log in, most of the time, what they want to do is find a job. So our search service cannot be down. However, we were using Elasticsearch 2, which became deprecated. That put us in a position where we had to switch to Elasticsearch 5 very quickly. So let's talk about why we can't really test this in production. The update is too large. Basically, we cannot afford making any mistakes here. It touches everything. It has a potential to affect every single customer we have, every single user we have. It's extremely important for us to keep the features functionally working. So how did we do this? First of all, it took us a while to figure out where did the Elasticsearch version 3 and 4 go. Then we created new classes and the classes for the new search syntax. So we started the upgrade with changing the syntax for our queries. So we put those classes corresponding to each index behind the feature toggle, and we thoroughly tested with unit and integration framework. We rolled it out to production incrementally, index by index, and we tested that in production because we have that amount of data in production that we need, and we were able to verify that we get correct results after the update. So the second case study is slightly different. Job recommendation service is, at Handshake, we use machine learning. We apply machine learning to recommend jobs to students based on students' behavior, based on students' major skill, maybe previous job history, job viewing history, location interests, etc. So we take all of that melting pot information and we suggest a job based on that to a student. And the question that we're trying to ask here is, does this job make sense to this particular student? And a lot of times you cannot go through all of those possible combinations and computations to answer that question. So to recreate that environment, it would take us, again, a lot of time and effort. So we, again, rolled out incrementally. We heavily used our interns because they're still in school. And after verifying that the jobs actually make sense, we started rolling it out to other schools as well. So talking about these two examples, I can hear the question in the audience boiling. You could still do this. You could still create a mock environment and do the same kind of testing, not in production. You could have done it pre-production. And yes, that's actually kind of true. I agree with that. We had to make those changes based on what our business needs are, based on our speed. We could not afford spending time and effort in setting up, maintaining, and securing those environments. But yeah, it is possible. However, what if we change the algorithm behind the job recommendation service? How do we make sure that those jobs are still relevant to the students? Do we ask the students after we change everything? I don't know. So here's where our experimentation framework came in. And we use experiments and A/B testing a lot in Handshake. We pretty much test every major product hypothesis that we have. For us, it's a two-step process. We have impressions and conversions. Impressions are a call to actions, or a button, a prompt, something that the user sees. And then conversion is actually action based on seeing that prompt. So an example would be showing a profile completion prompt to a student on a dashboard, and that would be an impression. And conversion would be if the student fills out their profile. So the way that we do it is we first of all determine which users, which students we want to target. We separate them into a different pool. Sometimes we want to say, we want our experiment to work only for, or we want to target only seniors. So based on that, we remove other students from the test group. Then we split it into treatment and control groups, and then we track their conversions and impressions, and we track them for both control and treatment group. This allows us to get very accurate results. So we are using LaunchDarkly to do this. We're using targeting rules. As you can see here in the, maybe it's hard to see, but basically we're specifying the user type as students, thus we're removing every other student, maybe there's administrators or something like that. And then we say we want 5% student to be on variation A of a feature and 95% on variation B of the feature. Unfortunately, we can't do all of it in LaunchDarkly. So some of our experiments, or yeah, maybe like a good chunk of our experiments rely on some more dynamic information, some things that change over time. For example, a student has seen a job recently. So we have to define recently, we have to define what exactly we want to track about that job. So in order to solve this problem, we create wrappers for LaunchDarkly, and this allows us to take additional conditions and configurations and split our user groups into more detailed cohorts. So as a result, we get a very, very powerful experimentation framework, and we can only do this in production. There's no way around it. So going back to my personal QA perspective and key takeaways, I definitely don't, like whenever I hear test in production, I definitely don't cringe anymore. But I know that there are right ways to do this and wrong ways to do it. Right ways will always include a healthy ecosystem. A healthy ecosystem implies you have good thorough tests, you have feature toggles, you have monitoring in place. We kind of have to consider our trade-offs. Sometimes it does make more sense to create the mock production environment. Sometimes it doesn't. And there are definitely things that cannot be tested in pre-production environments. So that also is kind of in line with my personal goals of, first of all, keeping the product happy, our customers happy and product stable. Our customers would love to use the product that is driven by the data and not our own hypothesis. And I also think that it keeps the engineers on the team productive and happy because they don't have to spend time creating and maintaining all of these different environments. So what's next for us? It's canary testing. So we want to be able to divert some portion of our traffic into like new features, for example, Rails 5 versus Rails 4. And right now we're working on moving to Kubernetes to achieve that. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, find me. I'm going to be around, and reach out. Thank you.